Hi, I'm Austin Yates at Iowa DOT, and I'm going to be talking about my experiences of implementing TSMO at the district level. But first, let's get on the same page about what TSMO is. So I'm going to talk about today kind of TSMO in general and TSMO in Iowa DOT specifically, and then TSMO at the district level. So starting off with TSMO in general. What is TSMO? It's 4 letters, 2 syllables. What is it? Is it some sort of drink? Is it some sort of a disease? Is it a name of a clown? Well, we're going to start off with the FHWA definition of TSMO. It stands for Transportation Systems Management and Operations. Some people call it TSMNO, some people call it TSMO. I like to say TSMO because it's just 2 syllables. But the definition in United States Code is an integrated set of strategies to optimize the performance of existing infrastructure through the implementation of multimodal and intermodal cross-jurisdictional systems, services, and projects designed to preserve capacity and improve security, safety, and reliability of the transportation system. Sounds exactly like a definition you would read in United States Code, right? Out of all of those lists, what to me distills the essence of TSMO is the cross-jurisdictional aspect. And to illustrate that briefly, I'll use my own experience as an employee, as a commuter. I live in a suburb of Omaha. And I work in Iowa. When I leave my house on a city street, then I get on a county road, then I get on a Nebraska state highway, and then an interstate, then I cross into Iowa on Iowa interstate, then I get on an Iowa state highway, then a Council Bluffs city street to get to my job. That's my commute. And as a commuter, as a user of the transportation system, it shouldn't matter which jurisdiction I'm in as a driver, as a passenger, as anybody on the road. It doesn't matter and it shouldn't matter. So cross-jurisdictional to me is the most important aspect of that laundry list of definition of TSMO. So when we think of infrastructure or DOT assets, we typically think of concrete, steel, and asphalt. And we have hundreds of millions of points of data that we collect and make decisions on. We can rate the performance of concrete, steel, and asphalt. We can predict the deterioration of concrete, steel, and asphalt. And we can work toward and plan for improving and replacing those assets. So TSMO at a DOT level is thinking of mobility as an asset. Now, the typical emblem, if we could have an emblem of DOTs, unquestioningly, it would be a bulldozer. When you say DOT, you think bulldozer, right? Now, TSMO, thinking of mobility as an asset along with concrete, steel, and asphalt, TSMO is a control tower. Think about an airport. Everything going on in an airport. There's a control tower that's helping everything move throughout the whole system. But a control tower is not an airplane. A control tower is not a runway. A control tower is not a gate at a terminal, but a control tower helps all of those aspects of the airport run harmoniously together. And that's what TSMO is doing at a DOT level. If you think about our project development process, it's, DOTs are great at delivering projects. That's what they do. That's why they exist. And we progress from planning, the planners plan, they hand it off to designers who design, they hand it off to construction who constructs, and then you have the ribbon cutting and it's turned over to maintenance and they take care of it for the rest of time and all eternity. So going back to that airport example, these are all the different aspects of the DOT, and TSMO exists in and among it and all throughout all of it, and helps harmonize all of those facets of project delivery, getting people moving and keeping them moving through all of those phases. Now, it's an old motto, tagline of Iowa DOT, but the easiest way to describe TSMO, it's getting you there. Doesn't matter what you're driving, It doesn't matter what you're hauling. It doesn't matter where you're going. We want to get you there. Whether you're a parent driving a minivan full of kids to soccer practice, or you're a trucker hauling a load of hogs to a processing plant, we want to get you there. That's what TSMO is. I'm really pleased and proud to be part of Iowa DOT, who's a leader, a national leader in TSMO, and I'm really excited to be able to move TSMO into the next phase at the district level. So that's kind of TSMO in general. And now talking about TSMO specifically at Iowa DOT. Just our how we're organized. We're broke out into 6 districts to kind of orient you statewide. Des Moines is the state capital, kind of a little bottom left of the center of the state. DOT headquarters is up in Ames. Ames is also the home of Iowa State University. And then I work out of the District 4 Engineering Operations facility in Council Bluffs. And also, if you're, I know this is a national audience watching this, if you're not exactly sure where Iowa is, if you look at a map of the US, Iowa's there in the yellow. Iowa is the head of Chef Meemaw. That's named for the states, Minnesota, Iowa, Missouri, Arkansas, and Louisiana. And Chef Meemaw is very famously frying Kentucky Fried Chicken on a Tennessee skillet. So Iowa, we're proud to be the head of the chef. So kind of the history of TSMO at Iowa DOT started, around the 2013 timeframe, following the FHWA push for, the 3-level framework of planning, where we had a TSMO strategic plan, a TSMO program plan, and then we called it service layer plans, kind of the tactical level. So way back then, Iowa DOT identified the need for a district level TSMO practitioners. And, a plan is worthless without exercising. And a plan is a start, and you use the plan and you tweak the plan based on how you use it. So I want to take this opportunity to explain that we started with this 3-level framework. And in the intervening time of using it, we've realized through practicing the plan that kind of program plan layer is better served by sticking the high level stuff in the strategic plan and the lower level stuff pushing that out to the service layer plans. So that's just one example of how we are constantly improving our TSMO practice, even just on the planning level. So we have all these service layer plans. These are all the different facets of TSMO at Iowa DOT. We have our traffic management center, intelligent transportation systems, traveler information, traffic incident management, emergency management, work zone management. ATDM is active traffic demand management, and CAT is what we call our cooperative automated transportation, so connected vehicles, autonomous vehicles. So the idea of a district TSMO engineer is to translate all of this theory, all of this academic knowledge into practice, into a practical, tangible change to our business practice. So that's what the idea was for district TSMO engineers. And when I came on board in January of 2019, that was, kind of my primary charge was figure out how all of this works at a district level. So one thing I was immediately struck with, just on a general level, is how to separate, when you're looking at hiring a district TSMO engineer, looking at separating the knowledge, skills, and abilities of the individual person compared to what the positional requirements are for a district TSMO engineer. And DOT knew way back when they had this idea that Iowa being on the forefront of TSMO, we're still in a good place to be able to do some R&D to rip off and duplicate what other states are doing, and on that national level, getting plugged into the federal highway efforts to push out and process and proselytize TSMO, as well as proliferate, even within the DOT, proliferate the TSMO way of thinking, and coming at it from a system approach, and start a process but make it applicable to the whole system. So the big question, and that's where I come in, the big question that Iowa DOT had is which district to start with. So, and I'll explain it in just a little bit, but they chose to start with District 4 in Southwest Iowa because of a very large construction program. So that's a good transition into going more from TSMO at Iowa, kind of a statewide academic level, to TSMO in the districts at a practical level. So I said I started in January 2019, and every day, one of the questions I have to answer is best served by a clip from Office Space.
What would you say you do here?
I've been trying to answer that question since 2019, and to help phrase what I do, that it's easier to start with what I do and get at the why I'm doing it. So Iowa DOT started the concept of a TSMO engineer, district TSMO engineer in District 4, specifically because of the Council Bluffs Interstate Construction Project. It's a massive $1.5 billion over 15 years, reconstructing some major system interchanges and many service interchanges, just basically redrawing the landscape through Council Bluffs in terms of interstate connectivity. So right now, Council Bluffs Interstate System, we call it CBIS. Right now, CBIS is run by a GEC, a General Engineering Consultant, and that's HDR, who's the GEC for CBIS. Enough acronyms. So, they're kind of the nanny. They're raising this baby, but at some point, the nanny is going to hand the baby off to the parents, to the DOT, and we're going to have to take care of our own kid. And that's why District 4 was chosen to start the kind of the early deployment or the pilot of a district TSMO engineer. So what I've been immediately plugged into was working with our allowable lane closures, when and how many lanes we can close at what times a day. And then that's also, we've applied that to whole rest of the district, as well as the rest of the interstate system in Iowa. So a main thing I also work on, just with my own background, is our DMS messages. What you're looking at right there is a screenshot of one of our overhead dynamic message signs in Council Bluffs, in kind of March, April 2020, where we stood up a drive-through COVID testing site, and we were using wayfinding to help people from wherever they were coming from get to this testing site. So we have color DMS, we have some oversized DMS. This one that you're looking at is over a whole 5-lane section. So it's almost double, it's more than double the width of a normal overhead DMS. So we're out there on the boundaries of technology, of applications to technology in terms of DOT. So we're really looking at how are these rules that were written however many long years ago, how they're applicable to the technology that we have in place today that wasn't even envisioned when, for instance, the 2009 edition of the MUTCD came out and has all these rules for use of DMS, but when we didn't have full matrix, full color DMS back then. And then another big thing I'm involved in is our kind of the crux of traffic safety of everything that we're doing in the Omaha Council Bluffs Metro is our Metro Traffic Incident Management working group. It's great. It's the best part of my job is the TIM group. And that's how we use all of these strategies and practices to actually save lives and improve emergency response. So outside of Council Bluffs area, I started in January 2019, and in March 2019 is when we started, almost 9 straight months of massive widespread flooding. So during the floods, got to apply TSMO practices to our business cases to keep people moving through the floods and around the floods and keep traffic flowing. Some of the things that I did was work with our central headquarters and get camera trailers deployed, so we didn't have to worry about power. We didn't have to worry about losing power or fiber optics being submerged for multiple months at a time with So getting eyes out that the public could see what we're doing and how we're working to reopen roads and to protect our roads, to reopen them even faster. Did a lot of outreach, felt like I was on local news every day back in 2019. And this is, kind of getting back to the positional requirements versus my own personal knowledge, skills, and abilities. This is one thing that's probably more of a me thing than a district TSMO engineer, because a lot of times my boss, who's a district engineer, would get a call for a media interview, and he would just say, "Hey, call Austin." So that's probably more of a me thing instead of just the position. So with my background in traffic engineering, I did some user cost analyses, and we use that for incentive disincentive calculations for contractors to get out there and start clearing things and rebuilding things. We're still working on getting high water monitoring systems out there, because before 2019, the last big flood was in 2011. So, it's kind of getting to see a pattern here. So we want to be able to accurately see what kind of water level is going on out there. And, our systems will feed into, larger data collection systems. It's not just a DOT thing. This is anybody's going to be able to get this data. And then the big thing from TSMO in terms of flooding that we saw was that everything's on the table, up and including we renumbered an interstate route that made more sense to renumber it instead of having a concurrent route and a duplicated numbering. It really simplified our ability to communicate what's open and what's closed and how to go where you need to go. So we did that, and that's a really cool thing to be able to be part of that. So with like I said, my own background was in traffic engineering. So a lot of this stuff is kind of things that I can do that not necessarily a district TSMO engineer needs to be able to do. But I'm doing a ton of traffic studies for locals, for cities and counties and school districts. I spent, almost 8 years in consulting. I know how to do this stuff. I can do this stuff, and it really helps to, pull these capabilities in-house and allow us to use our consultant services for other stuff that we don't have the in-house ability to do. I've been doing a lot of modeling and simulation in terms of, interstate operations and all that kind of stuff. Again, have this capability in-house. And doing, number one, the biggest thing of my job is supporting our maintenance as well as our design and construction staff. So since I started, DOT has hired 2 more district TSMO engineers, one out of District 1, so kind of that central Iowa, and then one in District 6, so eastern Iowa. And both of their backgrounds are not traffic engineering, it's, construction primarily with some maintenance. And they're going to be able to bring different knowledge, skills, and abilities to it, and they'll be able to accentuate what I'm doing over in Southwest Iowa. So it's great. We've started regular meetings that are facilitated by our Traffic Operations Bureau at central headquarters, and really just seeing how we can always be evolving and always be improving. And one of the things that we've done since we have 3 district TSMO engineers now is, do we need a district TSMO engineer in every district? The answer, that we found was that we probably don't need a TSMO engineer in every district. So that kind of skewed us to looking at a regional concept. So now with our 3 district TSMO engineers, we're now covering all 6 districts. So for instance, I'm covering now districts 3 and 4. So I have kind of the Western Iowa region and so that kind of, the way these regions kind of lined up is with our interstate corridors, basically. So we all have I-80 that cuts across Iowa, east-west. So I'm kind of the I-29 corridor. Ben Hucker out of our District 1 TSMO engineers is the I-35 corridor. And then Newman Abuisa out of District 6 is eastern Iowa. And, he has a 380 going to Iowa City to Cedar Rapids and the Quad Cities area. So it doesn't exactly, like my area exactly follows the district boundaries, but the other areas don't, because we kind of saw the utility and the usefulness of this core interstate corridor alignment with our north-south interstate routes. So that's where we are right now. in Iowa DOT with Districtismo engineers. As far as I know, we're the first 3 Districtismo engineers at a DOT. So like I said, we're writing the book, we're figuring out how we're doing this stuff, and it's great. And I absolutely love it. And I know Ben and Newman love what they're doing too. So what I covered today was kind of TSMO in general and how it applies to TSMO at Iowa DOT, and then even going one step further with my own experiences as a district TSMO engineer. So before I go, what I want to leave you with is, I love movie quotes. I got to quote Star Wars is probably the original Star Wars is a very quotable movie. So modifying an Obi-Wan quote, TSMO surrounds us and penetrates us, and it binds the DOT together. So that's what I want to leave you with, and may TSMO be with you.